Hello, everybody. Good day. Welcome to the Asia Pacific Cities and Nature Briefing, the first one for 2026. We're really, really excited to start this year together for Asia and Oceania. So we're looking to pilot this merger for the briefings throughout this year to see how it works and if we can get more diverse perspectives. And if, for example, later in the year, we see that there's interest in having smaller discussion groups on certain topics or on certain geographies, we are very open to having different structures for this. So just for everyone to know, this is not a fixed structure, but it's something that we want to try out so that we can hear from many more perspectives. I think there's a lot of island nations and also archipelagic nations in the region. So if we can bring those perspectives in more with more intention this year. I think that's something we're looking forward to. So welcome everybody. We're gonna kickstart this year. I'll quickly introduce the Asia Pacific regional team. My name is Mika Tan. I am from Singapore, currently based in Tokyo, in Japan, and I'm co-founder and also lead for East and Southeast Asia region in UBHub. With me, I have Anushri and Meherwan, who can introduce themselves quickly. But before that, I also want to say that Oceania's lead, Evariste, is unable to be with us today because he's preparing for his the arrival of his third child very, very soon. So we're really wishing him and his family best of luck, and we'll see him soon later throughout this year. But quickly, Anushri and Meherwan.
Hi, hi everyone. This is Anushri. I'm the South Asia lead with Urban Biodiversity Hub. Happy to be here and good to see new faces. Yeah.
Hi everyone, Meherwan here, the Young Asia professional from Urban Biodiversity Hub. I'm also a research staff at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore at the School of the Environment, studying nature-based solutions, financing, implementation, and more. It's lovely to have you all here today. And of course,
Nice.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yes, that's true. Happy New Year, everybody. We're still in January, so I think it's still great. And but then in February we have the Lunar New Year, so then we can wish people again. And then I think in April there's sort of New Year's related to spring throughout the world, so we can always wish each other New Year throughout. We have a packed agenda today. We'll quickly do a recap of 2025, covering what the Urban Biodiversity Hub has been doing for the regions. This is part of the Asia Pacific region is part of the UBHub Regions program. So we'll do a quick recap of what we've been able to do in 2025. Take a quick group photo, cover some global updates. It's been quite a while since both Asia and Oceania had a briefing. So there's quite some updates from the last quarter of last year that we feel is really important and significant in the field of cities and nature for everyone. But it'll be a very, very brief update. Then we'll have a presentation about the NATURA Global Roadmap for NBS or nature-based solutions with a spotlight on Asia and Oceania. Today we have Ms. Sheetal Patil to share about Asia, and we're hoping to have Ms. Annemie to share about the Oceania perspective, but she has an emergency and is not able to join us. So we will share her slides to everybody after the end of this session. We'll have time for open discussion or questions from the audience. We're again going to be doing a mind map capturing of our discussions. So that's something we always look forward to in our briefings. Then time for announcements and the next briefing date. Cool. So a quick update of 2025 with the Asia region for our cities and nature briefings. We held 7 of those throughout the year, connecting with over 80 people across academia, cities, and private companies. We covered a lot of different topics, but quite a big focus on urban NBS, nature-based solutions, and also sharing some opportunities, for example, the World Green City Awards. We featured a number of speakers, and the major announcement from that, which I've already shared, is to have joint Asia and Oceania briefings from January this year. Overall, for UBHub, we were able to hold 22 cities and nature briefings across the entire globe, connecting with over 230 nature professionals and city professionals. So if you are also interested and or based in another region, there are these similar briefings happening for Europe, for Africa, for Latin America, North America. Yes, I think I've covered the other regions outside of Asia Pacific. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to any of us and we can easily get you on the mailing list for these other regions. And in 2025, the Urban Biodiversity Hub's Regions program really went through a renewal to better be able to serve the communities that we are trying to build in these different regions. We understand that a global perspective is important, but it's really difficult for this time zone particularly to join any global session because it's always super late for us in the night. So the Regions program is really meant to build regionally grounded networks and knowledge base on what's happening with cities and nature with globally, regionally, and then also within regions. Asia is one of the biggest regions by number of countries and population and very diverse. So how can we capture that knowledge? How can we spur collaborations that's not just speaking to each particular geography, but also connected to larger and smaller scales at the same time? So we welcome your perspectives and your involvement. The objectives of the Regions program, I mentioned already, is to network practitioners across the regions, build and maintain this intelligence or this knowledge about cities and nature in that region, and to enable collaboration and knowledge exchange. There are many opportunities for turning these knowledge and insights into action and impact. A lot of these efforts are all organic. So if you have an idea, if you have something that you are looking for other people to work together with, this is a platform to realize that idea. So some of the activities, we have our signature cities and nature briefings. And coming up in 2026, we're going to be able to do data blitzes, which are online blitz parties to be able to add to and contribute to a database of urban biodiversity activities. We often are missing things that are not captured in English, and we're also often missing things that are very much local and happening in places that people know about but just aren't captured well enough in global databases. So this is our chance to really feature the diversity of things happening in Asia and the Pacific. We'll have orientations also coming up by region so that new UBHubbers can get to know more about UBHub. And I mentioned sort of spin-off projects that could happen with regional activities. And a quick recap too, in 2020, or just earlier, 2 weeks ago, the Urban Biodiversity Hub had our annual general meeting covering what happened in 2025. And we were able, and I'm just showing a quick summary too, so that it's clearer about what our vision really is moving forward. We're really looking to build a world where every city incorporates both direct and indirect impacts on nature into their decision-making processes. It's hard enough, I think, for cities to think about their direct impact on nature within their boundaries. But what about their indirect impacts on nature that's in the hinterland, in the watershed that they're a part of, or globally because of all the complex supply chains? But it's also not just cities per se, but maybe urban living. So these are really lots of different aspects that we want to explore. But for UBHub, what we want to do towards this vision is to enable cities to plan with nature. We often have a particular policy focus that's grounded in implementation reality. So these regional briefings is also part of that structure to really be able to have regional insights and to turn that into action and impact in the field. So these are just 3 goals for that UBHub has articulated. Goal 1, to have impact in the field of cities and nature. To position UBHub as a trusted global leader in nature-based policies for cities. And to build our internal network, to develop this knowledge. And the Regions program is very much a part of that. We really encourage people who are joining us in these briefings to join as an UBHubber. The details of how that's done is covered with the UBHub annual general meeting, and we can share more information if you're interested. So I'll skip through this, but really shout out to a lot of our team members who have contributed to UBHub over the years. We are looking to recruit more contributors for UBHub, and these are leadership opportunities that are currently open, and the time or the selection is rolling, but we'll do an initial review on the 23rd of February. So please, if you're interested, take a look at the openings and apply by that initial review deadline. At the same time, our Asia Pacific regional team is also looking to recruit people to be part of our regional team. If you're interested in knowing more about cities and nature and the field, make connections, possibly develop and champion projects that can have real impact in this region, we really welcome you to join our regional team. The Asia team, Anushri is actually about to also go on maternity leave very soon. So we're looking to have someone join our team while she's away and to stay even after she comes back, because we're looking to there's a lot of work to be done in Asia, and we'll talk about that pretty soon. So if you are interested to be a co-lead or a young professional for the Asia regional team, please reach out. The Oceania team too is looking for co-leads and young professionals. So please, if you are interested or you're not sure, you just want to find out more, we're happy to have conversations with you. Okay, at this point, I'm wondering if we can take a quick group photo before we move on to discuss the exciting developments around the globe and in the region. I will stop sharing screen, but if you're able to turn on your cameras for us to take a quick group photo. Yeah, it's so great to see people's faces. If you have any pets or any other, things you want to bring onto screen, please do. Okay, I'll take the screenshot, take the photo in 3, 2, 1, smile. Another one. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm zooming past a lot of this information just because we are aware of time. We try to keep these briefings short. We're targeting a 45-minute briefing. All right. I'll pass on now to Anushri to share a bit more about global updates since we've last met.
Yeah, thanks, Mika. Very quickly, in the interest of time. So first thing which is great news for us is UBHub is officially an IUCN member now. And special thanks to Mexico City and Nature Conservancy who actually supported this membership application. So yeah. Next, please. Yeah. So we also had the IUCN has come up with the Unite for Path for Nature, which is basically a draft of the strategic vision that they are planning for the 20 years. And there are 8 transformation areas which they have outlined in this. We will be sharing these slides with you, so please bear with me and my speed on this. Next. Next, please. So the Nature 2030 is One Nature, One Future. It's one of the program outputs that they're looking at is promoting nature-based urban development. So for all of us who are here in this meeting, this is an important update from IUCN that they're looking for in their program from 2026 to 2029. So please read. Please feel free to read through this, which is basically the document we would be sharing. There's a link provided here. Next, please. And these were some of the selected urban IUCN motions which went through, you can say, voting. at the World Conservation Congress that happened back in Abu Dhabi in October, and we have outlined most of them and also given a summary of what it means. Please do read them if they are of interest to you. Next, please. Apart from this, there was launch of the catalyzing. There was a framework that was launched, which is basically on catalyzing biodiversity on buildings, which was done by Holcim and Second Nature. And then there was a launch for the renewing urban waterways, which is basically a program or a project that we're looking at in conjunction with IUCN and UN Habitat. And to know a little bit more about the program, we had a sort of the launch happened at the World Conservation Congress. But to give you an idea, the expected outcomes of this project is to look at the water scale, to look at the landscape approach to how do we renew waterways. And we're looking for 3 to 5 cities, but now I think we have expanded the project and now we're looking for around 10 to 12 cities across Asia where we plan to implement this. And the focus is on nature-based solutions and building community stewardship and creating transferable methodologies. The contributions which this would be replicating and moving back to the global targets like such as the SDGs 6, 11, and 15 and GBF targets which are 1, 2, 3, and 12. Next, please. Apart from this, the CBD has also come up with they're open they have opened their submissions for reporting on biodiversity commitments. So we've given you the link. Please look through. There are some commitments which you can look at and also see how you can contribute towards the GBF. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's important here is that this is for non-state actors, so
Yeah.
local governments as well as private companies, and essentially anyone who's not government or not federal, national government is able to report on their biodiversity commitments. So we're looking forward to also seeing what local level commitments would be on this platform in time to come.
And the COP30 that happened from November in Belém in Brazil, we also had a lot of things coming out for urban, and there was a voluntary roadmap which is looking at transitioning away from fossil fuels. Colombia also launched its first international conference on just transitions. And we also have the transition mechanism where they're looking at fair green transition for all people, work, women, and indigenous communities. And indigenous participation, which I think made a lot of news, is also something that was significant that happened in the Bellem's meeting. Yeah. And to tell you all, the 7th Guangzhou Awards it's an international award for urban innovation. So it's now open for submissions. And basically, it was launched by the city of Guangzhou, but I think the deadline for this is scheduled for April 30th, 2026. But early submissions will receive expert feedback, which is basically which is scheduled for March 31. And the prize money is around $20,000 USD. So I think it's worth everyone's interest, or you can always tell all the people that you know who are working with the cities to apply for this. Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Thanks,
so
Anujri.
yeah, yes, thanks. I think now we can have Sheetal from IIHS. Sheetal, please feel free to introduce yourself and over to you. Yeah, and maybe she can share her screens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Anushri. Thank you so much, UBHub. It's such a delight to be here. And I'm just going to talk a little bit, not really entirely, because it's a big report of the Asia region roadmap for the biodiversity. And I'm just going to share some of the insights from the report. The report is going to be launched in few days now. The Asia report, the global report is launched, and the executive summaries for all the reports are up also on the Natura website and other platforms also. So I really invite people to take a look at the executive summary until the full report is launched. Let me share my slides so that I can take everyone through the things more systematically. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, yes.
I am just going to make it full screen if I can. Are you able to see a full screen or Okay.
We see the slides. Yeah, I think we see the full thing with the thumbnails on the side.
Oh, okay. I just have to hide the thumbnails.
Hide
Hide
the
the
side
side.
profile. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, great.
Good morning, all from India, because I'm from India, so I'm saying good morning. My name is Sheetal Patil. My background is in economics, and I have worked in sustainability, nature-based solutions, and very recently I have started working on urban and peri-urban biodiversity and other things. I'm an adjunct faculty at the School of Environment and Sustainability at the Indian Institute for Human Settlements in India. My research and teaching over the past few years have been at the intersection of human and natural systems. Using the lens of sustainability broadly, I engage in finding new ways where nature could be integrated in planning and designing of our cities. In that process, I have come to understand that Asia's cities are not just the sites of biodiversity loss, which is a challenging factor, of course, but they are also rapidly becoming some of the most important laboratories, kind of a thing, for how nature-based solutions are imagined, adapted, and governed in our really urbanizing kind of a century. Uh, Going ahead with the presentation, what I would like to do is that share some key insights from one of the chapters of the Asia Roadmap for urban nature-based solutions, which is focusing on what we know about the current state of research and practice across Asian cities. And to start with, there is a statement in the report, which I'm going to read it fully, which says that Asia is currently home to over 2.3 billion urban residents, with 50% growth in region expected by 2050, which is in another 25 years. How nature is included in this growth will play a decisive role in shaping global urban futures, which means that there is a kind of a work to do, and taking this statement as an objective in this session, I would like to elaborate or highlight three things. One is how urban nature-based solution adoption is evolving across Asia. Two, what kind of nature-based solutions are actually being implemented in our cities. And three, where the major gap and opportunities lie, especially from a biodiversity and governance perspective. So let's start and see where we are actually, right? So we agree that Asia is essential to global nature-based solution agenda. The region is urbanizing at a very unprecedented pace, and many cities are facing compounding risks, which are like heat or flooding or biodiversity loss or unequal access to resources. Often all of these at the same time, which is really a problem. This makes Asia a crucial and very testing kind of a ground for how nature-based solutions can work at scale across very different political, ecological, and cultural contexts. One of the strongest finding of the urban nature-based solution adoption in Asia, that it is expanding very rapidly, but it is actually becoming very unevenly implemented or unevenly also adopted. Countries like China, India, Japan, Singapore, and South Korea show high level of experimentation and institutional support, whereas Central Asia has far fewer documented examples, often maybe due to climatic constraints and also development priorities. Another important point is about the terminology. While global discourse, we use a nature-based solution, practice in Asia often uses it as locally rooted concepts, which they call it as sometimes they call it as spawn cities, Satomaya, and something like water sensitive urban design, and so on. This reflects the innovativeness. There is a lot of innovation, but also fragmentation, right? Because everything is not bracketed in one term. Another critical insight from this assessment is that there is a disconnect between research and practice. Academic literature tends to privilege globally standardized frameworks, while on the other side, on the ground, in practice, at least in Asia, is deeply shaped by local ecologies, cultures, knowledge systems, and traditional practices. Indigenous and traditional practices, like, as I mentioned, the example of Satoyama landscape in Japan or floating gardens in Myanmar, are central to nature-based solution implementation. Yet they often remain marginal in formal planning and research because they are not recognized as a standardized framework. In terms of implementation, also, we found that green nature-based solutions, which are related to urban parks or forests or green roofs, they are dominating. They get implemented on priority. However, we see that growing attention to blue and blue-green, which is the integrated system, especially in deltaic or coastal cities, are also getting more attention. These are like examples like mangroves or wetlands or river restoration. All these are either blue or integrated blue-green systems. They are also getting growing attention. But interestingly, the brownfield regeneration and hybrid systems, which also integrates other gray and built infrastructure, are still very relatively under research, despite their relevance in this very rapidly urbanizing context across the globe and especially in Asia. A couple of examples that I wanted to kind of give, and I think this is on the next slide. One of the examples that I wanted to specifically mention here, and both these examples actually are from India, and first is of that East Kolkata wetlands, which illustrates how nature-based solutions can function as core urban infrastructure. This system treats a very significant proportion of Kolkata's wastewater through a network of wetlands and fisheries, while simultaneously supporting biodiversity and also sustaining livelihoods for thousands of people. What makes this case particularly relevant for Asia is that it demonstrates how nature-based solutions can operate in a metropolitan scale, very large scale, and how it integrates informal economies, deliver long-term ecological and social co-benefits, and so on. And that also goes well beyond a stage of pilot or demonstration projects and all that. It has been active and functional for many, many years and for a larger scale. Another example that I would like to mention here is about from the cities of Pune and Bangalore. This is at a different scale. These Indian cities also show how institution actors like municipalities and other formal actors are embedding nature-based solutions incrementally into urban systems. In Pune, for example, municipal programs promote rooftop gardens and decentralized greening, which illustrates how nature-based solutions are being mainstreamed into everyday urban practices and development rather than treating them as standalone projects. Similarly, in Bangalore, institutional campuses such as our own IHS campus in Bangalore integrates wetlands, urban forests, and biodiversity corridors within these urban contexts. These sites act as living laboratories, demonstrating how nature-based solutions can support water management, microclimate regulation, urban biodiversity, and also livelihood sustenance simultaneously, right? Everything is shown at one go in some examples. Another key insight that nature-based solution in India is that it operates across multiple scales and governance modes. we see that large state-led investments like China's Spawn City or Seoul's Chengoshian, and many others in other countries. At the same time, there is this municipal and community-led initiatives on the other side, on the other scale, especially in informal settlements where nature-based solutions are embedded in everyday survival strategies through either urban farming, rain gardens, or microgreening, or water embankments in a smaller scale and all that. These smaller scale interventions are often overlooked, but they are very crucial for equity and biodiversity benefits and outcomes. So, even though there is so much momentum and so much attention towards the nature-based solutions and cities, there is also a very persistent challenges. There are also many challenges. Governance often is fragmented across sectors and scales. Financing tends to favor flagship projects and big, turnkey kind of a projects, and benefits are not always equally distributed, which sometimes reinforces existing kind of inequalities. And on the other times also, there are some limited kind of a monitoring and evaluation, systematic evaluation, particularly in terms of biodiversity outcomes. Thus, just to conclude, what I wanted to say that in this piece of assessment in the report, in the Asia report, roadmap report, it is evident that urban nature-based solutions in Asia are already diverse, they are innovative, and really deeply contextual. But to truly deliver the urban biodiversity, nature-based solutions must move beyond just technical fixes. They have to go towards the approaches that recognize ecology, culture, governance, justice, and all this together. This is where platforms like, I feel, Urban Biodiversity Hub and collaborations across research, policy, and practice become so essential at these times. And in closing, I really would like to emphasize that Asia Roadmap highlights the need for place-based, inclusive, and long-term partnerships to embed nature-based solutions meaningfully to urban development pathways. The Asia Roadmap is not just the stock take or just the situational kind of analysis. It is an invitation, I think, to rethink how urban nature is valued, governed, sustained across one of the world's most dynamic regions. Thank you so much. And these are some of the case studies that are covered in the Asia regional roadmap. And I really invite people to look at the report when it is out in public. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Sheetal, and for giving us a quick overview. I was really interested in all the data, and I took screenshots, and we'll have our discussion actually.
Yeah,
I'm just
all
really
these are from the full report, so you will find them in the report when it is open.
Yeah. Just a quick question. When will it be available, the
We are
report?
really close. So we are doing all the releases of the report region-wise. So during COP30, you must have seen the America and Europe. Europe also got released. So Asia report will be soon out. I'm not really sure about when it is exactly scheduled to be, but it will be very soon.
Yeah, we will help to re-announce it when it's
Yeah.
That's great. I'm really bummed that we weren't able to have the Oceania perspective as well to sort of contrast with what you've shared. But we also have slides from Miss Annemie, and I hope we will be able to share them to the audience and also to whoever was not able to join us. I'm going to share screen now to capture our discussions. Actually, hold on a moment. Here. think now I have the right screen there. Yeah. So this is I think we shared the link to this mural board in the group in the Zoom chat box. So feel free to join in and add your thoughts or look at the overview that we've just put up throughout the presentation. So we just did a quick I guess post-it bullet points of what oh, this one I think goes there, but for the presentation, yeah. So these are just some points that we were able to capture. Um, if you also remembered certain points that jumped out to you, feel free to add this into the board. And there's also space for discussion, for questions. If anyone wants to jump in with sort of a thought. I was particularly captured by this graph that you showed, that there's a lot of uneven but rapid adoption of NBS, but in the academic literature. And I captured the point there that a lot of this knowledge is still in the informal realm in Asia. Interestingly, you can see that US and Canada, which is two big countries, but still, I imagine there would be quite a bit, but actually no. So tons happening in Europe.
But I had a question regarding the Sheetal, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So it's like NBS was a new term for us, at least in this part of the world. So like when you guys were doing this work, like did you guys look at how the traditional ecological knowledge and all of these were adopted and also mainstreamed in some ways in some parts of the culture, which
Yeah.
precedes 2015. It precedes maybe more than 100 years or more. So that's how.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
how do you guys?
So I think that is what again is a limitation for the assessment, right? Like when we want to do assessments, we already kind of exclude some of the things which could be orally translated to into adoption, right? From oral kind of a practice to adoption. So that already gets excluded, and that is the limitation of the assessment of some of the things that these large scale synthesis kind of a reports do. It's really unfortunate, but I mean, some of the times they are documented, they are in the media, either as a reports or papers, and some papers also might cover it. But much of it, as you say, it gets really excluded. But the main point is that, where the other point was about whether it really counts as nature-based solution. Some of the times, some things don't get counted because they really don't follow the maybe systematic frame of how NBS is defined by some of the scholars, right? So if that is the case, then there is a requirement, and there is really a time to pluralize all these definitions. And how do we identify examples of although they are nature-based solutions, but they are not identified as nature-based solutions. And that is something which actually I really was struck by, saying that this is not only unfair, but it's a loss of opportunity.
Right. But did you guys take up a definition, like, like a universal definition that you guys stuck to, that this is what an NBS would look like for all of our regions?
Yeah, IOCN has the NBS definition, and I think, yeah, IOCN has that. So that is how most of the work, at least in the academics space, happens. Like, how do you really count? Because many of the times, I usually struggled in some of the groups where I said whether urban agriculture is a nature-based solution or no. And for me, it is, right? What best example you could give more than that? And sometimes it is not. And sometimes the things like, even the wetlands in urban wetlands, those also people say that no, you cannot count them as nature-based solutions. But I'm like, no. The best example is the East Coast Kolkata wetlands, and that is
Right.
how it was. Yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle to bring many things into that frame.
Mm,
Oh,
mm.
there is a question somebody's asking about, maybe they can unmute and ask if that's okay. It'll be nice to hear you also as you're typing. This is
Hi,
The
it's
question is, yeah.
yes,
it's Vivian. Hello.
I,
Thanks. Dr. Sito is a really good presentation. I'm from WWF Hong Kong, and we also have colleagues that working on MBS. And for me, my question is like, now more funding are saying that they're allocating for MBS. But I just wanted to know whether there are studies about like the situation of how banks or public funding are allocated for MBS, and in what area or which aspect that they are focusing. Like for example, in Hong Kong, most of the money are for like green buildings only, but like for wetland or habitat restoration, it's really, really low. So I wanted to see if there is any such study that we can take reference on. Thank you.
yeah, that's a really nice kind of question and also insight. I have not come across any studies about financing or funding of uh, and the investments for NBS. But having said that, there are, like, you cannot call them funding for NBS, but many of the times when these corporates have this corpus of which is like a corporate social responsibility, CSR kind of a budget, right? So many of the times I have seen now there is an increasing kind of inclination towards looking at the integrated solutions. Like, earlier there used to be something like, okay, they are going to work on health or education of marginalized communities, and that is how they are going to claim that, their interest in social responsibility is towards the development of human and people. But increasingly now there is a good interest in terms of how do you integrate, like health, yes, important, but for that, what do we need to do in the environment or ecological system? Do we need to really look at the water bodies surrounding that community? Do you really need to look at the pollution or biodiversity in that area? So that is how there is good kind of attention and funding coming up, but there is not a regulatory kind of agency or a framework which says that, this is the way in which the flow of funds, or which will also have a little bit of a bank and other investment banking kind of a solutions could come into this sector. We were actually looking at commissioning some study, like very small, short study on few cities in India to look at whether there is a possibility of bringing in blended approach to funding some of the initiatives, which has, like, both market linked uh, kind of framework for funding some of the projects. But yeah, we have not yet decided about how to go about that study, but there are opportunities to do such projects, I think.
Yeah,
Such
Vivian,
studies.
yeah, Vivian, just to answer from my experience, the thing is that most of the, at least in Asia, that I, like Asia meaning India, if I can talk about, most of the development is on like there's a lot of infrastructure that's happening right now. So the
Yeah.
way we see banks coming in, and at least in India, it's sort of a hybrid sort of a approach which they're taking. They want you to build roads, but they also want to have some form of NBS out there. So no exclusive projects around NBS, but
Yeah.
maybe a hybrid model where you have the conventional and the NBS coming together side by side. And also, like Sheetal was saying, the blended finance model and blended finance as a opportunity is being explored now, and a lot of green bonds and other bonds are also coming in, which municipalities are now kind of experimenting with, but it's not right now it's all in experimental stage, at least in Asia, at least. That's how I see it. There is some awareness, but we have not actually reached. And the banks and the financiers are also struggling to understand how do they even make governments or local governments to act on the principles which they look at in terms of the ESG or the otherwise. So I think both are trying to come at some level, and it's going to take some time, but I think we will be there at some point.
Yeah.
The has the Nature Finance Hub, which is for Southeast Asia and Pacific. So I think some of the banks are doing something innovative, but yeah, not all of them are there yet. Yeah. There's another question I see. Akash, I think, have a question. And even Norhin.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It was a really interesting presentation, and giving insight of these things. I mean, my question is primarily for uh, specifically urban scenarios like Delhi, where the development is like, I mean, it's almost on a saturation point horizontally, and people have started moving vertically, and we have a lot of redevelopment projects across Delhi. Uh, so how and I find very limited sort of open spaces, like so how can like, are there any studies or specific projects where we can explore, which are specifically for urban scenarios like these, where we are short of open spaces or we have dense urban uh, fabric, and how to incorporate nature-based solutions to mitigate urban challenges?
Yeah, I mean, see, there are different, at least from the report, what we have been finding also is that yes, there are so many limitations, and space or land is the biggest one in very rapidly urbanizing context, right? But then there are opportunities in terms of like how you can integrate blue, green, and gray infrastructure to make some of the nature-based solutions more innovative. For example, we were thinking on campus, like our own campus in Bangalore in IHS, although it is not the great example to say that it is densely populated or densely urbanized, there is still a lot of space. But we are actually studying what are those different ways in which we can make the built spaces habitable to different species in nature. For example, you see a lot of in Delhi also, especially there are so many bird species people citizens actually record, and we have that citizen science dashboard or so many platforms which show that people are looking at these kind of aspects around them, even in the very densely built areas. So, what are the ways in which you can make these, even the densely built up spaces, habitable to other species? There are so many different kind of innovations that could be made. And one of the studies from Delhi itself, I remember, which says that actually those small water bodies in Delhi, which are not like very large ones like lakes and big lakes and or floodplains or river streams and all that, but very small water bodies like ponds in the backyard of people's houses, or one small community kind of a water body that hosts so many different bird species. So there was an attention drawn to these smaller spaces, and that is what in the presentation I also talked about in the end. Although they look very fragmented, there is a lot of benefit to both human and natural system in the cities. So this is from maybe individuals or communities to look at, but there are also opportunities where institutions can pitch in, and how the regulations for building new structures or new public infrastructure could have strategies to make little bit space for for greening or integration with green and blue and make it not only just aesthetically kind of appealing to people, but also functionally they do provide a lot of benefits and services to people and nature. So to mainstream that kind of a practice, there needs to be a institutional or there needs to be a formalization in one way or the other. And I think many city governments are trying. There are lots of good examples in Chennai, in Pune, in Bangalore, even in Delhi. And I think, yeah, these need to be just come to mainstream. They shouldn't be remain as pockets of silos and pockets of people who are doing in really isolation. But maybe many of these and the links of all these things together will be really will have a large benefits to everybody.
Thank
So
you.
I think, yeah, the attention, although is not on the smaller solutions, it needs to be there. And together they might result in a good outcome.
Thanks, Shito. We will have one last question from Norhan. I hope I pronounced your name right. And then in the interest of time, we'll have to
Yeah.
quickly move ahead. Yeah. But
Hello,
if you could
good morning.
keep it short.
Yes, Nurhan is fine, thank you. I'm here from Dubai. I work at a biodiversity and ecology consultancy and advisory firm. And one of the things we do is advice on NBS. So my question goes back to the gap between indigenous knowledge and between scientific knowledge. And my question is, is anyone doing anything to bridge that gap? And how were there any trials or attempts to bridge that gap? What works, what doesn't work? Just some questions on how we can move forward to kind of integrate indigenous knowledge into the framework and the systems. If you have any information or experience in this area. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in the report, we actually, that is one of the key findings that have listed is that what are the embedding of the indigenous and local knowledge into the formal urban planning, how that could strengthen the cultural relevance and inclusivity and long-term success for the urban NBS. And yeah, as I said also, there are practices, but to structure it or to identify it, which fits into the frame of what NBS stands for, is one of the challenges. However, such knowledge is often kind of acknowledged by communities and adopted with a little bit of kind of a contextual modifications, and we have seen them in action in many of the cities. So that disconnect, yes, there is that disconnect which limits the potential of any nature-based solution to support the self-determination kind of a pathway and have that as a locally meaningful solution. But then there are a couple of recommendations, something like, promoting cross-sectoral collaboration that aligns indigenous local knowledge with urban planning processes. Like how do we hybridize that? How do we crossbreed that? How do we build context sensitive, inclusive nature-based solution frameworks that reflect diverse voices and views, right? Thus, we can ensure that cultures and ecological and social relevance is included in the design or framing of the NBS. Also, there are investments required in capacity building and long-term partnerships that move beyond just the symbolic consultation with the knowledge holders towards shared governance and co-management of urban nature, right? So there are some 3 or 4 different recommendations and actions which could lead to, shortening or reducing the gap between the formal and the mainstream and the local traditional knowledge.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Shito.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also maybe to add just one quick point, the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES, it's like a sister in a way to the IPCC. They're very good at acknowledging, and I think there's quite a bit of work being done to integrate indigenous knowledge into biodiversity conservation, but it is broader in general, not yet specific to sort of NBS and urban, but if you're talking about the larger in the larger scheme of things, how I've used the acronym here, ITK, Indigenous Traditional Knowledge, but there will be other acronyms elsewhere, but how that's being integrated and or sort of documented alongside scientific knowledge. I think there's some work being done at the IPBES global level, generally speaking, not specific to NBS and cities. So with that, I want to thank everyone for the great discussion and move back to our final section, which is just quick announcements from anyone who would like to share about their initiatives that's happening and want to find collaborators or anything. But this hope to keep this part short so that we can close off the session. It's already been an hour. So there is one, we know of one announcement so far, but if you have announcements, please feel free to unmute yourselves as well. But I'll ask Meherwan to share his.
Sure. Thank you, Mika, and thank you, Sheetal, for the inspiring kind of sharing and updates. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. Just a quick announcement that we are embarking on a really interesting project, which is studying the nature and biodiversity plans at the city level for cities in ASEAN. NTU Singapore, where I work, and University of British Columbia are conducting a systematic review for these different plans. We're looking for co-authors, and it's kind of the final call before we get started and deep dive into it. So if anyone is interested, we can definitely have a conversation about it. We'll be looking for your skills in content analysis, data extraction, paper writing, and potentially the use of AI and things like these. It's supposedly it's a shorter commitment. It wouldn't be a full-time kind of gig, but it would be a few hours a week. It would be there isn't any compensation, but you will be a co-author on a pretty important paper. If you're interested, my email is down there. You can reach out to me and I'll be happy to share more. We have a methodology ready. We're quite detailed into the steps. So yeah, thanks, Mika.
Thanks, Meherwan. Sounds like a very interesting opportunity. So if anyone else has something you'd like to share about projects that you're starting up, if you're looking for any expertise, collaboration, if you're not quite sure, maybe later on you'd like to share, we're also happy to get your announcements for later briefings, future briefings. But if anybody, now's the time to take the floor. I'm also watching out in the chat box. But at least I'm not seeing any show of hands at the moment.
Not sure
Yes?
it is. Yeah, I'm Vivian. I'm not sure it is. It's not directly to urban biodiversity, but WWF Hong Kong is starting a MBS training workshop or program in Hong Kong. It's like more for wetlands and that biodiversity. But as Sita also mentioned, capacity building is quite needed. So we just started to do that. And our first training was held 2 weeks ago with IUCN. So yeah, maybe more to be posted later on when we are like consolidating this training program. Thanks.
Is it virtual or is it in person?
I think this is this the in-person one which happened in Thailand?
No, it is I mean the Thailand is more by the IUCN, but this one is for ASEAN Flyway Network, which we are collaborating with. It is more on the wetland conservation, but yeah, it can expand to other areas. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, there's also wetland cities and things like that. So I'm sure it will be relevant to some of the practitioners who are at the intersection of all of these, right? Thank you. Uh, Feel free to sort of email us with any more details that you would like to share so that we can share it with the mailing list after this session. So thank you, everyone. And we're closing today's session, but with a quick announcement that our next Asia Pacific Cities and Nature briefing will be in the second half of March. We're still looking for a good date amidst all the different holidays that are coming up at that point. But we're calling for speakers on anything cities and nature. So if you're interested to speak in the next briefing, please do reach out. But otherwise, thank you for joining us. I feel like future briefings need to be an hour long.
Thank you
But
all.
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here, and thanks so much. Have a good
Yes.
day.